Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about your wireless home network and the type of encryption, meaning security, that you use. Now, let's say you live in the suburbs. It can be anywhere in the world, okay? And you take a walk around the block. Now, you might be able to count 40 houses, meaning you have 40 families living close by, and in this day and age, that also means you're going to have 40 wireless home networks right at your doorstep. Now, do you think that all of these networks are secured? I think that a lot of them have great encryption, meaning that they are very secure. Some of them are going to have an encryption which was very good in its day, but not anymore. And unfortunately, you're going to have a few networks out there that have no encryption, which are unsecured, and everybody that lives very close by are going to have access to it. So my first question is your wireless home network unsecured? Or if it's secured, what level of encryption do you have on it? Because that's very important. We are going off topic for a few minutes, and I'm going to ask you, have you ever broken the law? Just a little bit? Now, if you have a road which has a speed limit of 55 miles per hour, do you drive the speed limit, or are you sometimes above the speed limit? 15-20 years ago, I can't remember anybody buying a computer program. You either knew somebody that had a cracked version of Word or Windows. 5 years ago, the trend was to download music that you weren't necessarily allowed to download. So if you, for example, moved into a new neighborhood, you have an internet service provider that tells you they can't hook you up to the internet until 2 weeks. Down the street from you, you have an unsecured wireless home network that you can access from your own living room. Will you do it? Because you're just going to use it for 10 minutes. All you want to do here is update your Facebook status and read through some mails, and 10 minutes. If these people owning this network are not computer savvy, they're not going to know that you've been in on their network and used it to get online. Think about that. And while you're thinking about it, you got to do this vice versa. If you are the one with an unsecured wireless home network, how do you know nobody is using it, to get access to the internet? Because if you know nothing about computers, you wouldn't know. So this is where encryption on your wireless home network becomes very important. This is the first step. Your home network consists of a lot of devices. It can be a desktop computer, a few laptops, maybe one for the kids, a netbook, iPad, iPhone, printer, external hard drive, etc. But the main hub of your home network is called a router. And one of the main functions of this router is to connect you to the internet. So when you log in on your computer to go online, all that information passes through that router. So it's a connection point, like an access point. And the only thing the outside world sees, doesn't see your computers, is in theory your router. So if that router is unsecured and you have a neighbor somewhere with a laptop, that person can also go in on your router and use that as an access point to go online. Now, if I ask you what kind of car you have, you know the answer. If I ask you what kind of laptop you have, you know the answer. If I ask you the brand name of your router, do you know? Now, a few of you might not know what a router is. Some of you will know the brand name, and some of you will be looking above your monitor to see if you can find the box, right? But the good news is you don't need to know the brand name of your router. What you do need to know is the router is the place you configure the encryption level, the security that you want on your router and your home network, so that only you can access it and nobody else. Before we get to the encryption part, let's talk a little bit about your neighbors. Neighbors come, neighbors go, people move. So you might know your next door neighbors, and your kids might play with the kids down the block, so you might know a few more families. But what do you really know? You might know their names, you might know what they do for a living, but how about their hobbies? Or are they computer savvy? And when you watch the news, or you read an article in the newspaper and you have this huge story about someone, and then you have the neighbors saying, oh, he was such a nice guy, or she was such a quiet person, blah blah blah. So in all fairness, you really don't know too much about your neighbors. Now let's get back to your router here. When you walked around the block, you counted 40 houses with 40 families. Now let's put laptops into the equation here. So let's say you have 40 laptops. Now your router sends out lots of these beacons every second, which are signals stating, I'm here, this is my name, please connect to me, etc., etc. And your router has a strong signal. So out of those 40 laptops, maybe 30 of them can see your router by those signals. Now a laptop doesn't have all those signal powers. So out of those 30 laptops, maybe 20 of them are able to connect to your router. So your router has a lot of friends out there. And the question is, do you know all those friends? Well, those friends are your neighbors. Let's talk a little bit about encryption levels that can make your router more secure or not. Now, the first encryption level you have is called WEP. What it stands for is irrelevant. All you need to know is WEP web. It's been around for a long time, and in the year 2000, if your network wasn't unsecured, it would be using WEP. And it was a fairly good encryption, and the reason for it was that that's the only encryption you had. Now the difference here is with a WEP encrypted network, when you wanted to access the internet and go through your router, you would need a password. And you would know this password and nobody else would. So you would have access to your router, but nobody else did. Now we are in the year 2013, and for years now, all someone needs to do is download a program from the internet and use that program to crack your password within a few minutes. And if it takes a few hours, so what? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to use this. Now, your network might still be WEP. And the reason for it is, let's say a laptop computer, you might buy one every 3 years. A router, you buy one if it breaks or if you want some kind of new function. So your router and a lot of other routers out there are still using WEP. And WEP is almost as bad as having no security at all. And yes, you can and say your router was bought within the last year, or maybe it's 2 years old. And it does come with the best encryption possible, but that doesn't mean that the default standard on it is put to anything else but WEP. So you need to check that. Why would anyone want to go in on your router to get online when everybody has their own router? Well, you're hooked up to an internet service provider, an ISP, and they will give your router a unique address. It's called an IP address, so we can differentiate between your router and everybody else's that they provide for. And your ISP will log everything you do online. It's a fact of life and it's legal. Every website you visit will be logged. If you read an article in the New York Times, it's going to be logged. How many times you are in on Facebook, it's logged. Things you upload, things you download, it's logged. Okay? So ask yourself again, why would anyone want to use your router when they have their own? It's because sometimes people will want to visit websites that they do not want tracked back to their own router and to themselves. So you got to ask yourself, if your router is not encrypted with the right security, what kind of information is actually passing through your router that you don't know about? So, if someone is accessing your router to go online, what are they doing? Some of them are probably just browsing the internet, you know? But whatever websites they're on could get you in trouble because it's your router that's being logged here. If someone wants to have an anonymous blog, they're not going to open a second Gmail account to connect to this blog. Google is going to find that in minutes. They're going to drive down the street for 30 minutes, find an access point which is unsecured or badly encrypted, and upload. And a more serious thing to consider here is the following. The word that is most searched on the internet is the word sex. That means you have millions of people out there watching porn on the internet every single day. Some of these people are going to be downloading porn. Do you think they're going to be downloading porn through their own router? Or do you think they'll use someone else's? And could that someone else's be yours? So you see, having the correct encryption on your router is important because you want to know exactly what is happening on your router. There are 3 main encryption levels that you can have on your router. We have covered WEP, which unfortunately is a bad encryption as of today. The next encryption level is called WPA. It has been a very good encryption, and hacking into that router and cracking that password has been easier said than done, even though it has been possible depending on a lot of different things. But today there are other ways of doing it, and within a few years it might be just as easy as WEP. And there are a lot of routers out there with WPA as the encryption on the router. So if you have WPA, it needs to be changed, because the best encryption you can have on a router as of today is WPA2, and all routers come with it. So you need to go into your router and change it to WPA2. We have 2 more topics to cover. We're going to leave the best for last. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about something called WPS. It's not an encryption level. It's an option you have when you install your router. It's there to help you do stuff. It will put a name on your router. It will put most likely the encryption level to WPA2, which you want, and it will do a lot of other neat stuff for you. Most of them has to do with safety. Unfortunately, WPS has its flaws. To keep it short and not use too much detail here, WPS on some routers are hackable, making your WPA2 encryption level put in jeopardy. So you need to do this manually. You do not want to use, or you do not want to enable WPS. This you can look up on Wikipedia. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you do not want to go into your router, you're not computer savvy, etc., have someone you trust go in on your router and check to see if you have WPA2 as an encryption level. And if you don't have it, change it to WPA2. That's exactly what you want. We need to cover one last topic, and this is a very, very important topic. We have discussed what can happen if somebody gets access to your router and goes online. Now, one more thing to worry about. When you use your laptop to communicate with your router when you go online, that happens wirelessly. Meaning you have thousands of packets of information flying through the air between your laptop and your router. Some encrypted, some not encrypted. They don't just stay inside the house. If somebody has a laptop reaching your house, your yard, with the signal of the laptop, these packets of information can be picked up. Meaning that somebody might actually want to find out about you. You understand? What websites are you in on? Now, yes, you can be in on the Washington Post. You can be in on your emails and stuff like that. But do you order medication at your pharmacy through the internet? Do you have communication with your doctor's office through internet? Do you log in at work through your home computer? There are tons of information flying through the air here which are all about you and that can be gathered. So this you have to think about. This is important. And the more information somebody has about you, the easier it is to actually do an identity theft or completely ruin your life. And a last thing here, if they have access to your router, they will definitely have more information about you. It's not guessing anything anymore. But behind your router is your computers. And that's the next thing that's coming. You understand? Your computers. That's your whole life. That's your digital life. All your pictures, all your documents, your social security number. Your life is on your computers. Don't make it easy to grab it. Now, I will be making more videos Next video will be about purchasing a router and how to install a router and the safety and everything like that. But in the meantime, WPA2 people, and good luck.